Express.js is the most popular web framework for Node.js that facilitates the rapid development of web applications and APIs. In this video, I'm going to show you how to get started with Express and multiple ways to define the routes of an API using this framework. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump into it. First, we are going to set up a new Node.js project. So npm init. Okay. Now we are going to install Express. Npm install Express. And finally, I'm going to install NodeMon so that every time that we make a code change, NodeMon is going to restart the server. npm install. I'm going to install this globally. So this is -g NodeMon. Okay, now let's go to Visual Studio Code. Okay, now let's make a few changes to our package.json file. I'm going to rename this file. This will be app.js, and I'm going to add a couple of scripts. One script for development, and here we are going to use NodeMon to restart the server every time that we make a code change. This is NodeMon app.js, and then we're going to add another script to start the server in production mode, let's say. This is start, and in this case we're going to run node app.js. Okay, I'm going to add a new file. This will be app.js, and first we need to import Express. So this is const express equals to require, and this is Express. Now I'm going to create a new instance of the framework, const app, and this is Express. Now I'm going to set up the port where our Express application is going to listen to. So this is const port, and here we can set up an environment variable, process.env.port, or if there is no port environment variable initialized, we can use the port 3000. And now we can just start our server. So this is app.listen, and here we pass the port, and we pass a callback. And here we are just going to add a console log, console.log, and here I'm going to use backticks, and this is application listening on port $, and this is port. Let's run our server, npm run dev, and our application is up and running. Okay, now let's start working with different options for routing. There are multiple ways to define the routes of an API. We're going to get started with the most common one, I think, that is basically app. Here we set what is the HTTP method, in this case get, and now we add here what is the URI or the resource name, let's say books. And here we need to attach a handler function that is going to receive a request and a response. This will be an arrow function. And for now, we're going to keep it simple. This will be console log, and this is get book. And we can use the same approach to define the other HTTP verbs of the API. Post to create new books, in this case. So this is post book, and we're going to pass the data of that book in the request. We can define the put endpoint to update an existing book. So this will be put, and we can also define the delete endpoint to remove an existing book. So this is delete, and we are also going to pass the identifier here. Let's do books instead, and we can also add another endpoint to get a single book, and here we need to pass the identifier. So this is to get a book by ID, and this is to get all the existing books. and this is delete. And we're going to pass the ID. Okay, now that we added the different HTTP methods for our books API, let's go to Postman. And here I'm going to enter the URL to access our API. This is localhost 3000, and this is /books. So first I'm going to execute the get endpoint. As you can see here, we receive the get request. Okay, I'm going to add a response here, response.send. This is the way that we have in Express to send a response back to the client. And here I'm just going to say get. Okay, let's go back. Let's call this endpoint again. And here we get the 200 and we get the string that we are sending back to the client. I'm going to add the same here for this endpoint, and I'm going to show the parameter that I receive in this URL. So this is request.params.id. Okay, now I'm going to pass the param 123. I'm going to execute the request, and here I get the param that I'm sending to that endpoint. Okay, now let's perform a post request and send some JSON payload to that endpoint. So here we need to add JSON support in our application. So this is app.use, and this is express.json. Okay, and here in the post endpoint, I'm just going to return the body, response.send, and here this is request.body. Okay, I need to remove the parameter. Let's run this again. And as we can see here, we get back the JSON request that we sent as part of the body of the request. Instead of using different methods to define the endpoints of our API, we can use a single method provided by Express, that is the all method. So this is app.all. And using this method, we are going to catch all the HTTP methods in our API. So if here we define that our URI will be books, so our resource name is books, here we are going to be able to handle the get request, the post, delete, put, etc. So I'm going to add a handler here. I'm going to receive a request and a response. And here I'm just going to return the HTTP method of the request. So this is response.send, and this is request.method. Okay, now let's try our catch all endpoint. So first let's run a get request. Here we get back the HTTP verb, that is get. The same with post. We get post back from that endpoint. And if we pass patch, for example, yeah, we get patch. The same for delete, for example. Yes, we get delete. And there is a third way to define the endpoints of our API, and we can use the route method. So this is app.route. Here we can define the URI or the name of our resource. So this is /books. And here we can define the different HTTP verbs. So this is get, where we can add our handler. We can also use all here. So we can add a catch all along with the route method. And we can also define all the HTTP verbs, post, delete, and so on. And I think that the best way to set up routes in our application is using the Express router. So we can define modular routes and we can import those routes in our application. So we are going to add a new file here where I'm going to use the Express router. So this is books.js. And here I'm going to use Express. So this is const express equals to require express. And here I'm going to also use the Express router. So this is const router, and this is express.Router. And this is a module, so I need to export this router. So this is module.exports equals to router. And here I'm going to attach to the router the different HTTP endpoints. So this is router.get, and this is books. And again, here I can attach a handler, request response, and I can send a response back to the client. Let's say response.send, and this is get from Express router. And from here, we basically import that module. So this is app.use. Here we can add a prefix for our API, for example, the version of the API. So here we can say /API/v1. And here we need to pass the module definition. So I'm going to create a new constant here, const, this is books, and this is require, and this is books. And I need to pass this books reference here. Okay, now let's test our API using the Express router. Here we need to use the prefix. So this is API/v1/books. Okay, now let's send a request. And as we can see here, we get the message that we are sending back to the client in our endpoint. That's all I have for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.